Good evening, everyone. This is Making the Case. I'm Laverne McGee, in for Yodeep. The trial of the men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery is in recess until Monday, but tonight there is a new legal battle that's brewing. We told you last night that the defense team representing Gregory McMichael, Travis McMichael, and William Bryan wants people supporting the Arbery family, those who've been gathering outside the courthouse, moved. Those groups, some who came from across the country, say they're not going anywhere. BNC's Drake Clark spoke with two of their leaders about what could happen next.
The court is in recess until Monday morning, but yesterday before court ended, defense attorneys raised an issue that remains unresolved. Every day there's a group called the Transformative Justice Coalition that assembles here on the lawn outside the courthouse. Well, yesterday defense attorneys told the judge that group should be banned from courthouse grounds. Today we spoke with leaders of that group, and they say they won't be leaving without a fight.
No justice, no peace.
All this week,
No justice, no peace.
and until the trial is over.
Save me!
Members of the Transformative Justice Coalition will be making their presence known. They boarded buses from all across the country and headed to coastal Georgia. They're here to support Ahmaud Arbery's family and demand justice for his killing.
We did not want the Arbery family to be isolated. We did not want the Arbery family to be intimidated. We did not want the Arbery family to feel like this is their battle alone.
Three white men, Greg and Travis McMichael, and William Bryan, are on trial, accused of murdering 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery in February of 2020 as he was jogging through a predominantly white neighborhood. The McMichaels claim they thought Arbery was a burglary suspect, and while trying to make a citizen's arrest, they shot and killed him in self-defense.
We will also be here for this trial until there's a verdict. They're saying 6 weeks. All right, we'll be here 6 weeks.
But Thursday in court, defense attorneys told the presiding judge coalition members should not be allowed to assemble outside the courthouse, claiming the group's signs, banners, and daily rallies are negatively influencing potential jurors as they walk into the courthouse.
The jurors come in through a back door. They don't come to the front of the courthouse at all. So they have no vision, they have nothing, no sight of what is going on the front of the courthouse.
To illustrate what they called acts of intentional influence by the coalition, defense attorneys referred to a large banner with a picture of late Congressman and civil rights hero John Lewis advocating for voter rights. They also said a young girl who had been riding her tricycle in front of the courthouse with the sign on her back that read, "Justice for Ahmaud," was problematic. The problem is that little girl is actually a little boy with long hair.
Making reference to a child was horrible, just reprehensible for them to do that.
Coalition members believe the lack of support for the McMichaels and Bryan is why the defense is trying to get them banned. The judge told the defense to file their motion saying, quote, "Walk me through the First Amendment rights you seek to infringe upon and how you intend to do this." Meanwhile,
Show me what community looks like!
court is in recess, but members of the coalition walk through the streets, staying on course in their journey to get justice for Ahmaud Arbery.
If they are mad at us for being here now, they better get ready, because we're going to be...
Welcome back to Making the Case. Tonight we're taking a close look at the Louisiana judicial system, a system that has disenfranchised the black community for more than 100 years. In 1898, after the Civil War, leaders in Louisiana implemented the practice of non-unanimous jury verdicts. Non-unanimous juries allowed them to dismiss the voices of black jurors. But finally, in 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that non-unanimous juries are unconstitutional. Sounds like good progress, right? Well, the court didn't order new trials for those convicted under the old system. So that means that right now there are about 1,500 people in prison because of convictions arising from non-unanimous jury verdicts. And that includes 49-year-old Brandon Jackson. He spent more than 25 years behind bars, 25 years. He was accused of robbing a local Applebee's restaurant, a crime that he swears he did not commit. The jury convicted him on a vote 10-2. The 10 who found him guilty, white people. The 2 who voted to acquit Jackson, black. Joining me now is Claude Michael Como. He's the attorney for Brandon Jackson and a staff attorney at the Promise of Justice Initiative. Thanks so much for being with us tonight, Claude. Tell us about the facts of Jackson's case.
Yeah, so this case involves an armed robbery of an Applebee's in Bossier Parish. And basically 2 armed men entered through the back door of an Applebee's restaurant. And they were masked, so no one was able to identify their face, and they took about $6,000 in cash. At the time when the police were investigating it, they investigated on how and one man, Joseph Young, he had no, and then later said that he did have involvement. Told many stories to the police, but this was the one that he planned the robbery the night before with other men, including Brandon Jackson, and he had let them in the back door at the time of the robbery, and then the robbery occurred. All the evidence of the crime was found in Joseph Young's home, including the 2 guns and some cash from the restaurant, and no physical evidence was found at all linking Brandon Jackson to this case.
No physical evidence, and they had masks on. Okay, now you say that Jackson was charged under the habitual offender law. Can you explain to us what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. Louisiana habitual offender law basically means that if you've had any previous charges of felonies, then basically anytime you commit another felony, your sentence can be enhanced. So in Brandon Jackson's case, he had 2 prior drug charges. And so whenever he was convicted by this non-unanimous jury of armed robbery, they used those drug charges to enhance his sentence to a life without parole sentence. Later, some law changes came that was able to resentence him to a 40-year sentence, but he is still sitting right now in prison on that sentence.
Whew, all right, so there was a hearing yesterday. Tell us what happened during that hearing.
Right. So when we got to court, we were having a hearing on the post-conviction relief application that we filed, asking for a new trial. The judge ultimately decided that he was not willing to grant the application until the Louisiana Supreme Court came to a conclusion on the issue and basically told him that he would either have to grant or deny. He wasn't willing to make that decision himself. He was waiting for the Louisiana Supreme Court to make it. And so instead of denying the application, we requested that he stay the application and keep it pending in his court until that decision came forward, so that the application wasn't denied prematurely.
So tell us how Jackson is feeling right now through all of this, and knowing now that he'll have to wait until at least February.
Well, he's absolutely disappointed, and rightfully so. It's a disappointing result. We expect the judges in Louisiana to adjudicate cases and answer these questions that whenever we bring legal arguments to them. And unfortunately, this judge was not willing to do that in this case.
Any idea why?
He seems intent on saying that the Louisiana Supreme Court has to tell him what to do. He can't answer the question himself. He has to wait for the answer to come from the Louisiana Supreme Court. He says that lots of cases are probably going up through Louisiana, and as you mentioned, there are over 1,000 people that are in prison right now on these cases, and so he feels that he can wait it out. He can just wait for the higher court to tell him what to do. And so he just kept the case pending in his court.
All right, so his mother, Jackson's mother, we know she's 74 years old. She's been at every hearing. How is she holding up?
She is an amazing woman. I think that, she has said that she is basically staying alive to see him come home. And so every court hearing she comes to, and whenever it gets passed, it's an extremely disappointing result for her. It's extremely frustrating to come to every hearing, in her health and find that it's another kick of the can essentially, and there's no resolution, and then the only solution is to keep coming back and keep waiting.
So I have to ask you, the court ruled these non-unanimous juries unconstitutional, but they also ruled that cases before the decision don't have to be retried. So if it's unconstitutional, why not just fix the prior cases?
Right. That's a great question. And we all hoped that the U.S. Supreme Court would take that initiative and answer that question. Unfortunately, the U.S. Supreme Court feels that it can't get involved in the state's ability to regulate its own criminal justice system. So they went as far to say, hey, you can't do this anymore. Like, that's not constitutional. However, we're not going to tell you what to do with the convictions that you've already had. You're going to have to handle that yourself. And unfortunately, that leaves it in the hands of people that have not been able, like, parish by parish, or trying to make decisions based on what they think is the law or what they're willing to do.
Yes. It doesn't even sound like they really want to deal with what happened before. But we're out of time. Thank you so much, Claude Michael Como, attorney for Brandon Jackson and a staff attorney at the Promise of Justice Initiative. Appreciate you joining us here tonight. And the Supreme Court has made a temporary decision regarding Texas' controversial abortion ban. Find out what's next in this ongoing legal saga. You're watching Making the Case.